Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to Relatable Stories. This is this is your host Angeline, and today we are going to be talking to Buyiswa Nzadu, who is the second guest on the Survivor series, where we're talking about surviving sexual violence. Our host today is going to be Chipo Hwacha, who was our guest last week, also telling us about her story. So, for those that are joining us for the first time today, Relatable Stories is just a platform for us to share or tell our stories that are relatable, that can help to enlighten other people, to uplift other people, and generally to cultivate self-love in a way of raising awareness to the social to the social injustices and the things that affect us as women. We just want to raise self and social awareness, and from there we can start accepting ourselves and start building on loving ourselves fully. That is where we can actually become the best versions of ourselves. So I'm going to bring to the stage my best friend Chipo Hwacha, our host today, and my namesake Angelina Buiswa. Hello guys, welcome to the show.
Hello, Angeline.
Hi.
Hello, guys. You all know I love being here, so
Yeah, we
I'm
do.
back again.
Hi,
I see
Angie.
somebody like the spotlight. Hi. Hi, Chipo.
Hi, Bui.
Okay, so you guys are good. I'm gonna
Hi.
leave you now. I'll be chatting to you on the side, engaging with the audience. So I'm looking forward to learn a lot from you guys. And like we're passionate about raising awareness on sexual assault and violence. So I hope that everybody listening will pay attention and share this story, because it is very important for us to be very aware of, because these things are happening every day. So have fun, guys. Cheers.
So yes, like Angeline said, today I am going to be the guest host, and the guest is Buyiswa. I've known Bui for a while now. We've been Speak Out members for a very long time. We've been on this journey of speaking out and raising awareness against sexual violence for a very long time. And this is actually what brought us together, what got us together. So without further ado, I would like us. Oh, hi, Bui. How are you? It's been a while. Uh, so, like I said, without further ado, I would like you guys to also know Buyiswa. So, before we get into his story, Buyi, can you briefly introduce yourself? What do you do currently? And yes, just tell us a bit about yourself.
Thank you, Chipo. Nice to be chatting with you again. My name is Buiswa Angelina Nsatu. I am a mother of four girls. I'm working as an HIV counselor at the Desmond Tutu HIV Foundation. And I'm from Kailicha. And yeah, as Chipo said, I've been a Speak Out member for like more than 5 years now.
All right. Thank you very much, Bui. So I am sure you all want to hear the story that has brought us here today, the story that led Bui to being a Speak Out member and actually raising awareness against sexual violence. So Bui, can you tell us your story? Can you briefly share your story with us? What happened?
Okay, my story goes like this. When I was like about 6 years old, I was staying outside of Cape Town and on a farm called Heidelberg, where I was left with a stepbrother who has raped me. And then after that was like my first ordeal of my rape. And on that situation, I couldn't tell my mom because it threatened me. My second rape happened when I was in Cape Town, and that was around 10 when I was walking to go and visit my mom. I walked through this bush, which is like a shortcut, and that's when I was approached by somebody with to put a knife against my hand and neck, and that's my second rape. And then my third one was a gang rape where I was raped by two people that I know. One at that time was my boyfriend, and the other one was an ex-boyfriend. So in that situation, I didn't know they were planning something. And like my current boyfriend at that time asked me to accompany him to his place. And then that's when we get there, that's when well, I find out that my ex boyfriend was there. And that's when I was raped the third time by both of them. So that's like just a short version of my story.
Yes, sure. Yeah, that is a lot. That is a lot for one person to go through. Um, so you said that the first ordeal was when you were 6 years old, and then when you were 10 years old, and the third one, how old were you?
The thin one, I think I was like 11 or 12 years old. But all of my three incidents happened before I was like 16. I wasn't 16 years yet at that time.
Before 16. All right.
Mm.
So you were pretty young when all this happened. You were very young. You barely knew what was going on, and the first ordeal, you were 6 years old, and you said this was your stepbrother that raped you.
Mhm.
And I'd like to assume this happened several times. It wasn't just once.
It actually only happened once because after it happened, he couldn't stand to be around me. The only time he was actually around me was when um, he was like looking at me to find out that I don't say anything to anybody. So then that's when, but he couldn't take it anymore, and you could like actually was around to check if I don't tell my mom. But actually, when somebody threatens you against the only person that can protect you, there's no way you're gonna say something because my mom was the only person that I know, and if it would kill my mom, so obviously I'm in danger. So he like stick around like for a couple of days until he decided that he's gonna be leaving, and he never came back after that again.
All right. So this was you were 6. He assaulted you once. You were
Hmm.
staying with him and your mother.
It was him and my mother and my stepfather, who was his
Mm,
father at the time. Yeah.
okay. All right. And after he left, after this ordeal, did you then have the courage to tell your mom or to tell anyone about it?
No, you know what? I didn't have the courage. The immediately when something like that happened, I think I created a coping mechanism for myself. I just put it at the back of my mind, and like the only thing that I could think about was my mom. So for me was like, as you said, nobody's gonna believe you. I'm gonna kill your mom. You're gonna be all by yourself. So I was like, I'd rather not touch it. I'd rather not. I not even with friends that I have. I didn't even make a mistake to say something like this happened to me. So I just kept it all to myself through my childhood.
All right. And you were pretty young. You were very young when it happened.
Mhm.
Did you know what was happening to you? Did you know what
Not
it was?
Nope, I didn't. That is the only thing. I know somebody did something to me, but I didn't actually know what he actually did. And the funniest thing about it, like when I think back now, it could be that he planned it for a while, but he didn't know how was it going to happen. But now, for I could say, luckily for him, I felt sick on that day, and he was the only person that was actually there to be looking after me. And my mom had to go to work because she was a domestic worker, and my stepfather had to go to work. So he was like the only person that, because he was in his 20s and he wasn't working, so he was like the only person to be able to look after me with, because I had like chicken pox and measles, So I can't go anywhere when I'm sick like that. So for him, that was now his only opportunity because it was only me and him at home.
Sure, yes. You can all imagine, this is a 6-year old who has actually not gone to school because they are not feeling well, they are sick, and then something
Mm-hmm.
like this happens. And you, as a child, you don't even know what it is. You know something's wrong, you feel the pain, but to actually articulate what it is that has happened to you, to tell somebody, and you have been threatened,
Mm-hmm.
that the emotional trauma of it must have been a lot. And then afterwards you moved to Cape Town with your mother.
Yeah. So me
All
and my
right.
mom, we moved to Cape Town around 85. So my oldest brother who's living in Cape Town decided to come and fetch us because he built a house for my mom. So that's how we actually moved from Cape Town to like from Heidelberg to Cape Town.
Cape Town. All right. And now when you were 10 years old, you took a shortcut, and then someone just threatened you. You were walking home, I presume. And then
No,
someone,
I wasn't walking, I was walking to my mom's work. So where I live in
okay,
Kailicha, um, so you were able then it was safe like to walk from I'm in Kailicha, so Kailicha and Tafelsig, which is Mitchell's Plain, is actually not far from each other. So you can just walk. It's like an hour walk. So I used to do that a lot when I come back from school or I didn't go to school. So I used to walk. Then my mom would say, if you need something, just come and fetch if you want money, food, and stuff like that. So that was my opportunity to go and fetch something. And everybody was using the shortcut through this bush. So, and I was walking through there every single day. And when I'm like in the middle of the bush and I just felt this person who were like touching me on my shoulder from the back and have this knife against my neck and say, don't scream, don't say anything. And he's like, just go away. I move me from the path that I was walking, like into the bushes, and say, "Okay, can you take off your panty and lay down?" And I was like, kind of shocked about what's happening, but now on the other side, I was thinking, let me rather do what he's saying, even though I didn't know what was going to happen because it might stab me and nobody might know where I was.
mm, mm,
So that's what I did exactly. So I took off my pants, I lifted up my dress, and I lay down. And that's when my second rape was happening, and I didn't know who the person is. And when he was like finished, and he's like, "You don't know me, you can't tell anybody anyway." So I was like shocked, and I couldn't say anything. For me, instead of turning back home, I continued my road and walked to my mom's work. And then when I got there, I just went straight to the loo, locked the door, and I think that's when the shock actually hit me that something happened. But I didn't want to tell my mom because she's at work, so I don't want to upset her. And I just went into the toilet and took a lot of toilet paper and I start like wiping myself. And I think I sat there like for 30 minutes and I could feel the tears running down. And I was like, you know what, you need to like relax and get out because everybody's going to be concerned about why are you not coming out. And I think because of my first coping mechanism, that's what I also did. I took this and like, know what, I have to walk home. And I walked the same path, I walked the same way back, and I walked through the same path again. And when I think when I'm from my on my way home, walking through that, I'm like, something happened where I just went through, but I was like, it happened, so it happened. There's nothing I can change about it. But when I got home, I think I told two of my friends, and they just laughed at it. And then I felt like, I wish somebody can tell me why they're laughing, because I don't think what happened to me is actually something that was supposed to be happening. And then I just went like, no, let me forget about this. I'm not gonna tell. I didn't even tell my oldest brother about what happened. I just kept it to myself at that time.
Okay. So you know, you are just 10 years old, and something like this happened to you again when you were 6, and now you are 10 and it happens again. And I can just imagine the shock and the trauma of it all on a 10-year-old. um Even though you know that something has happened, something bad has happened to you, you were just in so much shock that you even walked the same path and you didn't feel like, this path is going to be scary. You were just numb to everything else that was going on around you, because this was
Mhm.
just too much trauma for your body, for your mind to comprehend at this point as a 10-year-old. And then you told people that you thought were your friends, and this is the first time you're speaking about something that has happened to you, and these people laugh at you. So that further makes you feel like maybe this is something I should not talk about. Maybe this is something that, I should keep hidden, because if I say anything to anybody else, they are also going to laugh. So these people were right when they said no one would believe me. They can do anything they want to me and no
Mhm.
one would believe me. And this was just reaffirmed by your friends that laughed at you. And then
Mhm.
now the third ordeal, this happened when you were now around 11ish. And so at this age already, you now had a boyfriend. It's 11.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and so this is someone you actually trusted, right? Someone you felt, okay, this person loves me, this person cares about me. And
Mhm.
if they ask you to say, let's go to my place, you felt comfortable doing it because it was someone that you trusted. And then
Mhm.
they have organized with your ex-boyfriend to actually gang rape you together. Now, after this third ordeal, did you manage to report them? What happened afterwards?
With my third ordeal, like my ex-boyfriend, I we have dated, but when I found out that he's like part of a gangsterism group, I was like, I'm still young. I'm in school, so this is not like me. What if something happened to him and then something's gonna happen to me? I can't continue with this. And that's when I started dating somebody who's actually in school. So I'm like, okay, you would understand I'm in school, and you would understand when I say I've got homework, then you would know, okay, she's busy right now, I can't see her. And on this specific day, because normally we would meet and we would stand in the corner and just talk to each other. How was your day? How are you doing? Those type of communication. And then he was like, can you accompany me to my place? That was like at 9. And I was like, okay, I don't have a problem, but as long as I'm not gonna stay. There's like, no,
Mm,
you're not gonna stay. We just gonna sit down and chat, and then I'm gonna bring you back. I'm like, okay, that's fine. And now, and in my group of friends at that time, I was the only person that was like dating, because I grew up in a different culture, because I only learned my own closer culture when I get to Cape Town, because Kailicha's more popularity is like closer people. So where I come from, I'm
mhm,
coming from a colored area. So in a colored area, we date at any age. So that's where the difference was. And then when you got to his place, they opened the door. And then when you got in, and I'm like, okay, I'm seeing a familiar face, which is like very strange and dodgy. But now there wasn't something that says immediately to myself to say, to tell him, okay, let's go right now. And when it got in, and I was like, what is this person doing here? Then it's like, no, we're just gonna talk. And I'm like, what are we gonna talk about? Because I don't think there's anything we could talk about with this person being here. And then it was like, no, we're just gonna. I'm like, and then I started saying, you know what? I think it's time to take me home or let me just go. And then the other person just like, no, you're not going anywhere. And then the door get locked, and I'm like, okay, something is really up that I don't know what's happening. And then when the door gets locked, and then I hear my ex saying, "You're not gonna scream. Nobody's gonna believe you." And I was like, "There's no other way out. The only way out is the door." And right now, I don't know what's happening, and maybe I should listen and see what's gonna happen. And then the next instruction that I get was get undressed. I'm like, okay, now this is getting very strange. Now I need to get undressed. When I'm like, do I ask questions or do I do exactly what I'm being told? And then my mind is like, I'm dealing with a dangerous person that I had a relationship with. And then there's this quiet person that's supposed to be protecting me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, and now I need to choose. It's like I need to choose either I get undressed and see what's gonna happen, or I can start screaming and see what's gonna happen. Then I was like, the best thing for myself is just to follow instructions. That's when I follow instructions, and then he was like the first person. My ex was like the first person who started raping me, and then it's like instructing like my boyfriend at that time to like, okay, it's your turn right now. And there was like a clock on the wall, so I could see the time, and it was like the time is like going, and I was like, okay, it's getting to midnight and I'm still here and this is still going on. And I could feel my brain as like kind of shut, like want to shut down because my body's exhausted about what's happening. And now I'm like praying for my brain not to shut down, because I don't know, if my brain shut down, they might think I'm dead and they might literally kill me or do something. So I'm trying to kind of walk through myself and train my brain not to, please don't shut down. Try to stay awake. Maybe it's gonna be over. It went on. I think it ended around 2 in the morning, and then my ex was like, "This is to teach you a lesson to not having to start relationships with people with somebody that I actually know." And then I was like, I don't know what he's talking about because I didn't know they know each other. And then when he left, I'm like telling my current boy, okay, I want to go home. He's like, it's 2 in the morning. I'm like, I don't care. I want to go home. And he's like apologizing, trying to explain what's happening. And I'm like, I don't want the explanation because it's not going to help me right now. I want to go. And then he's like, no, but who's going to open the door to your mom's place? And how are you going to explain where you're coming from? I'm like, that's another thing. I'm like, oh, how am I gonna explain getting at home at 2? I'm like, okay. And then it's like, I'm gonna sit at the sofa and you can have the bed. I'm like, I don't want the bed. I'm just gonna sit here. And in the early morning, sitting on a chair, it's freezing cold. And I'm like, I'm gonna sit here. I make sure I'm sitting by the door because I don't know if this person might come back again.
Mm.
And I just sit there until the early morning. When I see it's like daylight outside, I'm like, I'm leaving. And then it's like waking up, apologizing. You was threatened and all that. I'm like, that's not an excuse. You should have told me before we get here. And maybe we could have a solution to the problem.
Mm.
And it was like, but he was like threatening me and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't care. I just want to go home. And that's when I decided I'm going to get home. But now when I got home, I didn't even say where I come from because nobody asked me where I was coming from, and I need to go to school. And I decided to take a bath, get into my uniform, and just go to school and just forget about what's happening at that time. And I didn't even tell my mom. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't tell the teacher at school because remember that happened like last night, and now I'm back in school, I'm like, okay. And from all this, I didn't even realize that this is actually happening to me for the third time. Because I think it's because I blocked out every single thing. I went as good as blocking out a lot of stuff that's happening to me.
Sure. Yes, that was quite an ordeal for someone who's not even 15 yet, and you get to go through all this. So, viewers, guys, I'm sure you have a lot of comments. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts. Angie, can you share with us if there have been any comments or thoughts in regards to Buyi's story? Angeline?
I actually haven't seen any comments. I think everyone is just as shocked as we are. I think the story is quite sad. I just wanted to actually find out how you managed to go on, especially the last ordeal where I feel like you were more mature. You understood to some extent that this was wrong. It's the third time this is happening to me. Something is wrong. What are the feelings that you were feeling at that point, and what support do you think would have been helpful for you to be able to feel better?
Honestly speaking, I felt like I blamed myself. That's the first thing that I did. I blamed myself for trusting the person that say he loves me. I blame myself for going to his place and putting myself up in a dangerous situation, because I think if I said no, that wouldn't have happened. And I I think when I was like home and when it was like playing through my mind, I called myself stupid. I called myself I'm easy. And while I was thinking about that ordeal, because that was like the worst ordeal ever that could ever happen to anybody. I don't even wish that to happen to anybody else. I didn't even link it to what happened to me when I was like 10 and when I was like 6. And remember when you're like 11, 12, had an ordeal when I was 10. I could have linked it to what happened to me and said, okay, this actually did happen to me. But because I got so good into blocking stuff, I didn't even link it to other stuff. But I was actually good in calling myself, I shouldn't have been there. What was I doing there? And why don't I tell somebody? Nobody's going to believe me. And in the area that I lived in, at that time, even if you screamed, there was going to be questions. What were you doing here? Why were you doing it as a girl at night? What were you expecting? So I was running away from being judged, but I end up judging myself at that point. And that's why, and I think the reason why I kept quiet and not telling anybody, in my mind, I did I think I might have kind of thought of what happened when I was 10, but I didn't make much sense. But I was like, in my mind, something happened and I told people, but they didn't believe me. So I'd rather keep this to myself too. So coping mechanism again, it like pops up. And that was my life at that point.
So, yeah, I can I cannot even begin to imagine what it was like, what you felt like at that age. I mean, yes, you might have been a little mature, but you are still a child at the end of the day,
Exactly.
and there's still stuff that has happened, in previous years that you have not even dealt with. So now this trauma is just being added on to your body, to your mind. You still have all that trauma with you and you are carrying it. So after all this happened, you've had your coping mechanism to block it. um when did you now decide that I need to get help? when did it become clear, or when did this trauma start affecting you to the point where you actually said, I need help? Or how did you come about now getting help, or actually approaching someone and talking to them about what had happened to you?
That was like when I decided to get help, it went on it happened actually very unexpected. It wasn't even, when you plan to go for help, you're like, okay, this is what's happening to me, so it's time for me to go and ask for help. And at my house, we had an incident where my brother was accused of rape. And I was attending his court cases. Every single time I was attending court cases, so taking time off from work and going to the court and listening to court cases. So every single time when I get back and give feedback to my mom, I could feel that I'm not actually fine. I'm having flashbacks of stuff, but I didn't understand what this stuff is actually all about. And then at the same time, I was actually in relationships, and after I was in like in an intercourse, I feel like I feel this pain, and I feel like something is not actually right with me at that point. And then rape crisis came to my work, and there's like offering rape counseling, like a training for counselors to be rape counselors. And then, so where I used to work, I used to work in Kailicha at an organization called Live Live. They normally gave training, so the whole stuff. And then I'm like, I was attending, and it was so interesting. I was like, okay, this is very interesting, and I like to be in everything. I never say no to anything. And then there was, I think it was like a 5 day training, and then on this nearly the last day of the training, they gave us this topic that says, think about something that happened to you. It might be something sad, it might be something happy, it might not be, it could be a true story or not. And then they put us up in groups. I remember my group, we had like one male. And I'm like, I'm the first one who's gonna share. Me. You know me, Chico, me, and like sharing. I'm good in that.
Yeah.
And everybody were like looking at me. They're like, okay, go ahead, since you're like interested in sharing. And I was sitting, and I'm like, when I was 6, my stepbrother had sex with me. When I was 10, then this guy had a knife against my neck. And when I was like this age, I got gang raped by my ex-boyfriend and my boyfriend at that point. And I think we were like 4 people in a group. And then the others were like looking at me like, um, something is not right. Something is a kind of, it doesn't seem like I understand what was actually happening. And I was in my 30s at that time. And I remember the guy asked me, I was just listening to you. You were like passionate, sharing what happened to you. Do you actually know that you were raped? And I looked at him, and I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, because you were like counting. You counting your incidents, and you counting your 3 incidents, and you like going details with your incidents. And I'm like, oh my God, it's actually true. And I didn't actually put it in my mind that that was actually rape. The next step lead to my manager knowing, my manager pulling me out of the training, pulling in rape crisis, and then like you going to counseling. I was like, okay. And even when they mentioned the word counseling, I'm like, okay. It's like whatever you think it's fine, doesn't matter. That was like me until I got to my counseling session at the Rape Crisis in Kailicha. And then when I started unpacking, then I'm like, woman, you have been carrying all of this for years as a teenager. And now when I'm actually talking about it, and it was like, I think I felt relieved. It was like this huge amount of stress and stuff were like just like I was like, wow, I did it. That was like me, and then like I think I went for counseling for like three years. I like on and off sessions, and yeah, I was even told to approach the ones that I know and tell them what approach them and confront them about what they did. And I was like, would I have the energy? Would I'm just acknowledging what happened, so would I have that energy to like face them? But God worked in mysterious ways. The ones that I actually confronted were my third rape, and the one came to my work. He wanted to volunteer something, and that's when I pulled him into an office. And I didn't tell my manager that he was the person. I just pulled him into my office, and then I told him what he did. And he was so apologizing. Um, he knew what he was doing. He thought he was teaching me a lesson. I'm like, no, I didn't want an explanation right now. I was just telling you. But at this moment, I'm just telling you that I know now what happened and I forgave you. Then he was like, oh, thank you. And then it was like, me and you, we don't have any communication ever again. And to make things easier, don't come to my work ever again. Otherwise, I have to tell my manager that you are one of the people who actually raped me. And then with the other one, I knew where he was staying. I sent a message to his place. Then he came, and then I told him what's happening, and he started crying and apologizing. And then the sad part, I told him today, and the next day he came back and say his daughter got raped by his girlfriend's boyfriend. And I was like, um, okay, God, I was asking for forgiving the person. I didn't ask you to send them back to me to like come and tell me what happened. And I was like, okay, you have to go to the police station and open up a case, which nobody told me to do something like that. Now I'm giving him advice. So yeah, that's what happened to me to get to the point where I am right now.
Yeah. Okay. So I've heard your story so many times, Boye, and every single time seems like the first time I'm hearing it, and it's very hard to hear. It's a very tough story to hear. So now you are in your 30s when you finally get help or get counseling.
Mhm.
But when you then look back to from the time you were 6 to the time you got counseling, when you look back to maybe your behavior, did your character change? Are there things you started doing that now when you think about it were out of character for you? Or things that you start now you didn't even understand why you were doing these things, but now it makes sense to you. Were there things like that you started doing? And if they were, what were these things? What were these actions or characteristics that came about because of this burden you had been carrying from the age of 6?
Honestly speaking, there was. I was so I was I'm a very quiet person, but in that quietness, I think I had a lot of things on my shoulders because after all the things that happened to me, I had to also grow up as this young child. I never had a
Mm.
childhood where I said I was a child. I had to grow up very quick. And I started retaliating. I started looking for attention. Attention, that's the first thing that I was looking for. I didn't care why I was dating. The only thing that I wanted from the person was having sex. And when it's done, I didn't care. I don't know you tomorrow. I don't care if this is a relationship or not. but it happened. All I wanted, because I had this void, I had this pain that was like infiltrated in me when I was young. And when I did have sex with somebody, I wanted to be a specific way. I wanted to feel that pain with this person who didn't even do anything. And he didn't know what was actually happening. I remember there was a time when I started not sleeping at home. I would sleep over at the guy's place and come back tomorrow morning. And my mom asked me, "Where were you?" And I'm like, "I slept at a friend's place." So I made up stuff. And there was a time when I left with a boyfriend, and when he stole a friend's dad's car, and then we went somewhere to fish for a weekend, and I came back on a Monday, and my mom didn't know where I was, because at that time there were no phones where you can say, "Mom, I'm at such a
Mm.
place." My mom had to pull in people from church because they were thinking I'm being, um, when you like
They're
a black
possessed.
child going out of your possessed, you letting the devil taking you over, what evil spirits and stuff. And so many things were like happening, and I was like, you guys don't know, this is me, this is the new me. And it was like, this is the bitchy me. So you want the nice me, so you have to work for the nice me doesn't exist. And when the other side of me wants to come out, there is no I'm gonna stop it. I had to just let it be. And when I want to be nice and quiet, that's gonna come out when I feel like it. So every single time I'm like this good girl going to school, being nice, quiet, stay at home. And when it's like, okay, it's nighttime, I'm like, okay, now the other side is coming out. My mom was like, I don't know who this child is, but I am just gonna pray to God that one day this child is gonna like wake up. And because this is what I was telling myself in terms of even starting a relationship. I wanted so many times to tell the person that this is what happened to me. I'm feeling empty. I'm not full. But I couldn't understand what was happening. I only understand that when I went to my counseling session and when my counselor was like explaining to me. And then when you go to a counseling session, it's not with somebody like me that had these incidents. And then I remember my counselor saying, we need to work on that child
Mm.
that were raped. The child need to heal before we can heal the 10-year-old and the 12-year-old. And I was like, I have no idea what this woman is talking about, but she's just wasting my time. I'm like 30. God, can you just get it over and done with? But the more I went, I understood that that 6-year-old was actually hurt. That 6-year-old was threatened. That 6-year-old protected the mom. That's not for a 6-year-old to be caring to protecting a parent. Is the parent supposed to protecting the child? But in my situation, it went the other way around because my mom was an alcoholic at that time, and I think at that time, for me it was like, let me protect her. She might not, maybe not understand what was happening. Maybe she would, maybe she wouldn't, but I didn't want to take the risk of telling her. So that was actually happening. And so counseling actually put me in a way to actually identify, because when I went there, they asked me the same question, what changed after your incident? Then I was like, sorry, just hold. Guys, I'm in a meeting and I'm live. Bye. Langkabila uno. Sorry, it's my daughter.
That's
um
all right.
so yeah, it's stuff like that. And I actually learned a lot when I went to a counseling session. Like today, I would tell people, go to a counseling session. You never know what might happen. And I didn't expect a lot of stuff. And yeah, I learned from it.
Okay, so now after all this, after it all happened to you, um, you started acting out because you did not know what had happened to you. You did not know how to deal with the trauma of what happened to you. And you started looking for ways to fill a void and to numb the pain that you were feeling. But because you didn't understand where the pain was coming from, where this void was coming from, you didn't know how to then, feel it. And you had to look for ways. And these ways were quite destructive. They were quite dangerous to you, even of the situations you put yourself in. But because you had told yourself, I need to find, by any means necessary, I need to get rid of the pain, or I need to feel that pain again because maybe that's what I deserve. But because you were
Exactly.
simply a child all those years from when you were 6 up until you got counseling, you were simply living as a child in that mind because you had not dealt with the things that had happened to you. Even your relationships, I hear the relationships you were seeking, you did want that comfort in that love. You did want that understanding in that care, but you didn't know how to ask for it. You didn't even know what it was. You knew you wanted it, but you didn't know what it was or recognize what it was because you had never felt it or seen it before. It's something that had never been presented to you. The people you trusted had broken your trust. The people who you thought would protect you couldn't protect you. Instead, they had turned against you. So even building meaningful relationships, it was just not in the cards for you because at the back of your mind, maybe you're even thinking, even if I have a meaningful relationship with this person, what if they turn and do what that other guy did when I was 12? How do I know?
Exactly.
So I'm going to use them for what I want, what I think I want and need, and then I'm going to walk away because I can't go back there. Wow. So whew, it is a lot. It is a lot. And like the topic or the theme we're running with, the effects of sexual violence, the effects they had on you, the effects they had on your lifestyle, on your relationship, even the relationship with your mother, because it became strained. You became a rebellious child. You didn't want to stay at home. You would go out and come back the next day, go out for weekends, go out for days, and your mother would not know. And still, you at some point, I'm sure you wanted your mother to recognize that something is wrong with this child and ask you, Bui, what is it? Did your mother ever sit with you and calmly say to you, Bui, this behavior, this is not you. Can you tell me what's wrong? Did you ever have that conversation with your mother where she sat you down and asked, or rather recognized or acknowledged that this behavior was now in you?
Um, she actually, when this was happening, I, I think in her way of asking me what was wrong, I didn't. She actually did ask me, and I didn't tell her because I was like, even if I tell her, you wouldn't understand. So, and I think also another thing that made me not to tell her was that when we got to Cape Town, she started working and staying at work, and then I had to end up being at home, staying with my brother. Then sometimes my brother's not there, and then I'm alone, and then I need to cook for myself, do stuff for myself. I'm like, you letting me to be independent. You didn't let me grow up as a child. So I think there was a thing in me that says you don't actually have the right to ask me because you never hear. And even when you're here, it's like you're not here because you kind of enjoying yourself and stuff like that. So for me, it was like, as much as I wanted to give her the answer that she wanted, I was like, she's not gonna get it. Maybe she's gonna get it years from now, but at this point and right now, I am not gonna give her the answers. Maybe she needs to go and find out herself because she's my mom. She needed. I think there's a time where I felt like, why can't my mom be at home with me? And we sit together and then we talk about stuff, which she wasn't. And even when I got to Cape Town, um, There was a time when I was living in Kukuletu, not in Kailicha, because I was going to school in Mitchell's Plain and there were no transport. So there was a time when I was separated. So for me, when we moved to Cape Town, that was the time when we were supposed to bond. We are away from
Mm.
where we're staying, and she's not drinking as much as she used to. So now it's like, okay, we're gonna have a bonding session. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And then I was like, woman, I'm not gonna give you what you want. You can search for it, but you're not gonna get your answers. So this is me. You need to get used to. This is me. She used to take me to churches. She used to take me to. She used to take me to sangomas. And she's not getting the answer that she wants. I'm like, oh, this woman is wasting her money so much. But never mind. Let she just do. But it was actually painful for me to see her do that. I could see she's doing an effort, but I was like, you're still not gonna know what's happening to me. So it's fun. You're trying, but you're not actually there yet. All I wanted from her was like, I love you. I'm here.
Mm.
That's all I wanted, which I didn't get.
So do you feel that in some way, to a certain extent, you get to a point where you maybe were blaming your mother for what happened to you?
Yeah, there was a time where I would look at her, and I think there are times when I was looking at her, especially during my brother's case, rape case, when I have to come back. Remember, it's not easy to go to court and listen to rape cases. And then you get your flashbacks, and then you have to come home, and then you have to sit in front of your mom, and then you have to explain to her what's happening to her son and stuff like that. Then I think there was a time I was like, um, I think during my counseling, I was still attending my brother's court case too. And then there was a time I was like, I don't think you actually know what I went through.
Okay.
And I wanted the support that you're actually giving your son. You never gave to me. But I couldn't like tell her that because she's like my mom. I was like very respectful to her and very grateful to her. Okay, she taught me to be independent, maybe in her own way, but I wanted the same treatment she actually gave her son, which I never got. And I was like, the one time I was like, when I look at it, I was like, the reason why I'm like this is because of you. But then I console myself by saying, let me not do that. She's my mother. Maybe she has her own reason. She has her own demons. So let me not do that. But the only thing that I'm grateful for through all my trauma is that I never fall back to alcohol. I never fall back to smoking. I never fall back. That's stuff that I could have done that I never even think of doing at all in my life.
Whew. Wow. So I think what we can take away from this is sexual abuse and sexual violence, rape has a big impact on the lives of the victims and their families. What we
Mm-hmm.
don't realize is, it might seem like it's one thing that has happened and you can simply get over it, but you don't get over it. There are things that happen to you that sometimes you can't even explain yourself because
Mm-hmm.
it takes something away from you. It takes a piece of you away, and it's taken forcefully. So now when you decide not to talk about it, because your body knows, your mind knows that something has been taken away from me, you try and find it, but you don't even know what it is. That's why we always encourage to get help. Speak
Mm-hmm.
to somebody. Speak to some. It might not even be the police that you rush and report to, but find somebody you trust. Talk to them, offload, and start getting help. Start getting counseling because it eats at you. It changes you when you don't recognize exactly what it is. It affects your relationships with your family. It affects your relationships with, maybe you try now to get married or you try to get into a relationship with someone. It affects all those relationships because you are not okay. You have not dealt with the trauma that you have gone through and you have not dealt with the pain that you have gone through. So it just does not disappear. We need to raise awareness. We need to speak about this. Well, that's why we are part of the Speak Out group. We need to speak about it and raise
That's
awareness
true.
and say, you know what, people, talk about these things, open up to somebody, get help from somewhere, because you know, one day you want to be a mother, you want to be a parent to someone, but when you have not dealt with the pain you yourself went
You
through,
you
you won't even be
can't.
able to recognize the pain that your child might be going through at that point. And now, you are a mother of four daughters, right? You have
Yeah.
daughters yourself, and looking back about what you went through, do you maybe live in fear of this happening to your daughters? What do you tell your daughters? Do they know your story? Do they know what you went through? And what are their thoughts and feelings about it?
Um, Being a mom, it's, how can I put it? It's like not something that I planned. My first word, I was like 18, and I remember when I was told I was pregnant, and it told my mom, I'm like, I'm not gonna tell this woman. She's literally gonna kill me, and I was scared. I was like, I don't believe I'm 18 and I'm in school. I'm gonna be a mom. This is not happening to me. Please, is this reality? And on the other side, I was like, it's a blessing. Now I had this beautiful four young ladies that's like taller than me. They do know my story. They used to go when I was working for a previous organization, talking about rape and abuse and everything else. They were like in my program. There's
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I always did when I was working. When I was gonna do so, I always pull in my kids. I know it's not easy as a parent to talk to your children about relationships, sex, and stuff like that. So for me,
Mm-hmm.
putting them in those groups and them listening, I was like, that's my way of communicating. So when they know they want to talk to me, they know that my mom is there. We can ask questions. And I think when they started to hear my story, I think when I was starting out at Speak Out, like we're taking the poster pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and me going to radio shows, talking about it, and my story coming out on social media and stuff like that. I realized that they they feel sad. They actually proud of what I'm doing. On the other side, they don't know how to say, "Mom, we are proud of you." I think they still kind of. I think every single time when I hear my story, they kind of still absorbing everything. And I'm just giving them the time for when they're ready. I know my 14-year-old. I was looking for something to send to Angeline, and then I found one of the pictures when I was googling my name. I didn't know if I'd Google my name, I would find stuff. And then my 14-year-old was like, "Wow, my mom is a celebrity." I'm like, excuse me, how did you get there? Even at work, I everybody at work, when I keep on telling my story like over and over and over again, as you said, you heard my story a million of times, and the more you hear it might be told a different way than the first time. It becomes something new. Then even at work, they were like, "We have a celebrity now." I'm like, "No, I'm not. People, please." So my daughters are proud of me in their own way, but I think they still finding ways to how can we actually tell her
How
that
can
we're
they
doing.
communicate how
Yeah,
they
I
feel
think they find
about
it that,
it?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
the communication type of place where they don't know what to actually say, because I think they still, because every single time when they hear it, it's like it's something old, but it seems like new. And I think you remember our street talk interview. I
Mm,
let them watch it when it came out. They couldn't finish it. They just they just left in the middle of it. And I think
okay.
it was like too much for them, like to watch it. So they are proud of me. It's like just a matter of saying we are proud of you. We love what you're doing. So that's what I'm saying. My the work that I wanted to do was actually to be a social worker, but then I'm kind of the work that I'm doing is closer to what I'm actually doing as a counselor, and it felt like that's. I think it's because what happened to me. That's why I'm doing the work that I'm doing, and I don't see myself changing the type of work that I'm doing for anything else at all.
Okay. No, the good thing is you are open to questions when they are ready, when they want to know
Mm,
more, when they know that you are open to it. You're always open to give advice, to tell them what happened, to explain so that, when they are ready with their emotions, they can always come to you. And
mm,
now you say that because of what happened to you, your career path, um be, okay, or rather you chose the career path that you're in because of what happened to you, and that is admirable, because now, out of that ordeal, out of all those bad things, came something good. Now you are able to help others, now you are able to be an inspiration to others, to offer that support that you didn't get when you needed
mm,
it. You're able to offer it to someone. You can now recognize the signs, even when you see
mm,
them, or when it happens, you can say, you know what, I know what this is. I've been through this. When someone tells you what's going on, you know now what to say to them, because it's something you have been through. You can raise awareness, you can give counseling, you can refer people to where they can get help. And that is what we want to speak about, what we want to tell people about, that you know what, you have the help. We are here, we've been through it. You can
mhm.
overcome it, you can go through it. It is a journey that never ends. We always say that at
Exactly.
Speak Out.
Yeah.
It's a journey that never ends.
Never
There's no
end.
end to it, but it gets better every day. And you discover things about yourself, about your strength and your capabilities
Mm,
every day. And, you just have to soldier on, like soldier goals. You
yeah.
move on and you fight through it. And that is what we are raising awareness about: sexual assault, sexual violence, rape, sexual abuse. It's real, it's happening. Let's shine a light on it, let's
Mhm.
uncover it, and let's speak about it. Let it not be a taboo. We are glad that we can now have these conversations where we can speak about it openly like this. Angeline, I am sure you might have a few words or comments, maybe, that you'd want to share with us. I see we are at the 1 hour mark already. Me and Buyi can go on for like the next 3 hours. We don't mind.
Forever.
We,
You guys are
we
better
are
than
used
me.
to this. We are used to
You
this.
you guys are better than me.
Thank
You're definitely better
yeah.
than me. Thank you so much for enlightening me.
Yeah, we used to that we can go on until tomorrow morning. Okay, until our batteries say no more.
Oh my
Exactly.
gosh. I cannot take away from the message that you've just given, Chipo. I think I've actually learned a lot from hearing your story again, Bui. I like you said, I think it's always going to give us new, fresh experiences and lessons. And I think with these stories also, because sometimes we don't actually deal with it when it happens, we are also learning when we tell it. So there's other
Mhm.
parts
Mm,
that we don't come to the forefront when we tell it the first time, but the next time you know how to
mm,
articulate it better, and it gets better and better. And I feel
Exactly.
like
mm,
you being open to keep speaking about it all the time on different platforms is a gift to us, because it means that every time we listen to you, we're going to get something else from it. And what I'm taking away today that is new is that there is um, there is going to be emotional effects of rape that involve your relationship with your loved ones. even though you have spoken out and they now know and they told you that they accept and they're helping you, you still have sometimes resentment that needs to be talked about. And like Chipo was saying the other time, you don't want to be the one starting the conversation all the time. You want your support
Yeah.
system to always start the conversation, because it's never going to go away. It's something that needs to be addressed all the time. So I'm happy that we're able to have our open discussions about this taboo topic in our society, and this will help other people that are going through it in their families to not, self-sabotage. I heard a lot of talk about self-sabotaging and, um, getting into all these toxic relationships. We are not going to be able to prevent this if we continue to help each other raise awareness. So thank you so much, ladies, for speaking out,
You're
for coming
welcome.
to Relatable Stories, for help for raising awareness on sexual awareness. On sexual assault and violence. I will continue to help you whatever you need. Definitely, you're coming back. You are definitely coming back. I feel like we need to have a discussion, Chipo. We talked about this, a panel
Yes.
discussion where we now
Yes.
get deeper. We now know your stories, but we just want to get deeper into what actually does it look like when we're dealing with PTSD, with your depression. What does it look like when you're in your relationships with your family, with your romantic relationships, even at work? Are you also still attracting other relationships like that, toxicity in your life? How do you deal with that? What did you learn in counseling? I know you touched on it, all of that, but there's more to say. So
We just
I'm
scratched the
inviting you.
surface.
In fact, I'm not inviting you. I'm telling you, you're coming back.
You know I always want to come back, Angeline. What are you saying?
Maybe Angie had some
Okay.
other thoughts, but you're definitely coming back.
I thought this is a I thought this was like a once off and she's not gonna come back again. Ah,
Okay,
I
happy
thought it's like,
people.
okay, now she shocked my panel and now she's not gonna come back again. Now I'll come back again anytime.
Thank you so much.
I'll
You
come back
happy
anytime
people
you want me.
need to go and make supper and eat. Have a
We
beautiful
do.
week.
Yeah,
Thank you
I
so
need to
much.
go and study because I'm writing tomorrow.
Oh,
Oh, good luck on your
good.
exam,
Best
Brie.
wishes in your we actually need to talk about that. You are doing you're doing matric, right?
Yeah, I'm doing
I'm
Chupa
so
knows how
proud of
long I've
you.
been doing it.
Mm.
8 years.
I'm so
Yeah.
proud of you
I'm
that you're still pushing. You're still pushing.
it's
Exactly. You
guys,
didn't give up. I like. You know what?
it's
This is amazing.
45. But
So
guys, at 45, I'm still doing it.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm only one
you are
subject,
doing great,
Chupa.
Brie.
One. Then yeah, guys.
Such an
I only need
inspiration,
one
Angie.
subject, then I'm done. Thank you
Okay.
guys.
All the best.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks, boy. Love you guys.
Love you.
Bye. Love you too.